Christmas. Santa, magic. It's such a wonderful time of year. That is, until it isn't. Let's face it, moms, being the keeper of childhood Christmas magic is a lot. It's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of tantrums from the kids and from us. And it's a lot of obligations that we don't necessarily know how to say no to.
I just like to smile. Smile like my favorite.
Make work your favorite. That's your favorite, okay?
Okay.
Work is your new favorite.
Fine.
Time for an answer. Okay, people, tomorrow morning, it is Santa's only thing.
Oh my God!
So the thought of doing the whole charade over again this year can send a lot of us hiding under our blankets. I'm here to say fuck it to that. I love Christmas and have found ways to continue loving it as a single mom of 4. In this holiday series, I'll be joined by guests and experts who will share how they find balance through the holidays so they don't turn into the Grinch on the street. It can be the most wonderful time of the year for moms too. The secret? Learning when to say fuck it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Merry Fuck It Christmas. I am your host, Amanda Haro, and I'm joined by another awesome guest, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, Amanda. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Virginie Fite-Georgel, and I'm a life and career coach who help neurodivergent women leaders silence their negative self-talk. And I'm so
Thank
happy
you so much.
to talk about that Christmas season that is so loaded for so many of us.
Yes. Yeah, it can be, but it doesn't have to be, right? If we can figure out, really, it's just figuring out like what you want Christmas to be for you, the holiday season, and what's important to you, and then setting boundaries and sticking with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that with the rest of our life, but I feel like
It is.
there is extra additional pressure around the end of the year because we don't live alone and insulated. So there is family coming around and boundaries to just talk about to our kids, to our family, to whomever we encounter with the school events, with whatever is going on at work. It's a lot.
Yes.
And yeah, like with the rest, you need to be intentional and decide for yourself.
Yes. Yeah, it can be such a loaded time of year, and just the normal boundary setting and stuff, but so many people don't really have boundaries in general, and so I feel like that's why it gets so extra around this time of year, because like you don't really have boundaries to begin with in your in your just regular day to day, and then there's so much more expected of you, more obligations thrown at you, and then it can just become a really stressful time of year.
Yeah, and I think it's I mean, I feel like as a parent, it's really important for us to think about those when we can ahead of time, because then it becomes so much easier to explain to our kids whenever something happens and they're asking, why are we doing this or are we not doing that? And then you're
Yeah.
like, it's not so stressful to explain to them and get mad about whatever is happening. It's about, well, yeah, because in our family, this is how we like to enjoy the holidays and this is what we're doing.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm curious. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in France and so did my husband. So
Okay.
a lot of like the cultural shift to moving to the US is interesting having kids here
Yes.
because it's like some of it is similar because we're still like not that far from like, it's not a huge cultural gap, but still there are certain things that we didn't grow up with, or the school system doesn't work exactly the same. And so all the celebrations are different there. And the expectations of like, what are we doing? And are, people included at work? And why is it not with the kids? Or, it's just like, and then there is also the expat view about the expectation of people of the country where you come from and your family and friends asking all the time, are you coming? And you're like, I don't know. And then it gets really interesting for
Right.
yourself to know your boundaries and your reasons why you would go or not go somewhere.
Yes. Yes. So what is Christmas like in France?
So in France, it's really very similar. It's mostly about the kids. There is like the religious aspect because a lot of the population is Christian,
Hmm.
and then it's really about the kids and the gift and Santa and all of that. And usually it's a big family gathering. So, especially since we do not have Thanksgiving,
Okay.
it is like only that time of year where, you get together, and then it always gets interesting with the how do you call that? Like multi-composed families.
Yeah.
And deciding when your kids age, how are they going to do? Do they have, a special one that they want to go and visit their family as well? And then if you add that to the parents who might have split up, it's layered. And that's where communication is like so key, because some people like would like definitely push the guilt on you, and that's definitely not what I want to model for my kids.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So, what has been the biggest, like, what has been the biggest, like, cultural shock moment, if you will, for you, your Christmas, like, experiences growing up in France and then coming here and the US version of Christmas?
Well, I think it's really similar around that time of year, but I think it's less loaded in a way in the US because of that big gathering around Thanksgiving just a month before.
Hmm.
So you have more choice and flexibility, whether in France it's like really about like getting together, showing up, like having a huge meal. I think the main difference that we see is that dinner or lunch like gathering of people, because we do not eat the same way. We can have very similar food, but never would you see French people just have one plate with everything on it. I think that's a big like difference for us. It's
Okay.
like you need to be seated at the table even for kids like for hours on, and you're going to have at least 3 plates or 3 courses, I mean. And it's kind of part of the game. And then you have, all of the conversation where you will go or not go into topics like politics, religions, and all the fun coming around that. But the
Sounds
arguing
like a
is
good
part of
time.
the it's part of the culture. It's like it's not necessarily aggressive, even though it sounds like it sometimes.
Okay.
It's just part of like I want to engage with you. I want to learn more, and that's like my way of showing up. And sometimes it's even like being a bit of a devil's advocate, which is totally not politically correct here.
Right. No, that's not how we do it here. Not at all. That sounds stressful. Like talking about politics and religion at Christmas sounds like the absolute worst. That sounds like me getting my things and leaving early. I did not want to do that.
Yeah, and
So, are
so I
your
think the boundary comes back around those conversations, because you need to know that people are not trying to harass you and push you and be like, I am right and you are wrong. It's just like the way that they are having a conversation.
it's like actually a constructive conversation where you're just like open to someone else's point of view?
Sounds weird, huh?
That's really weird. Don't know what that's like. Nice for you guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, is your extended family still in France, or did they also come over here?
No, everybody's in France. Only
Okay.
my
So
husband
you
and
don't
my
have
kids
to
are here.
worry about the is his family still in France too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys don't have to worry about extended family like pressures.
So that's our choice. Like we haven't been to France for Christmas since I was pregnant with my first one.
Okay. How did that go over?
Well, I think the first couple of years we just won the lottery for our green cards. So we had like the perfect excuse. We couldn't leave the country until that was settled. And then we had little ones, and then it was just complicated, and there is like a lot of flu-like things going on, so we just didn't go. And now this year is the first time we're going to go back, and that's really interesting because we're just going to go and be amongst the four of us, and whoever wants to come and visit us is going to be welcome, but we are not getting a lot of interest, and that's very interesting.
So you guys are going to be there and no one's going to come see you?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because some people have plans already, because some people don't have enough time to travel, even though it's like, or maybe they just like have different habits. And I think that's where we had to coach ourselves quite a bit to be like, well, what do we want out of it? And are we doing it for us, for the kids, for them? Like, what is kind of the combination of feelings and thoughts going on around there?
Right.
And that's what we landed on. So this year we're going to go, and we just want to go in the mountains to go skiing. And we'll see who comes. Maybe for New Year's Eve.
Interesting. But that'll be nice to show your kids. So is this the first time the kids have been to France, period, or just for the holidays?
No, it's just for the holidays, and we're getting also a lot of pushback from them because they're like, no, but Santa is not going to come, or, oh, but how are we going to deal with, like, we're going to be all alone and we won't be able to see our friends. I'm like, well, most of your friends are going to be away anyways, so
Right.
that is not a real argument. But it's interesting to see how, like, what are they thinking about and what matters to them. And they're like, oh, but if we go to that place in France, can't we go and visit other people that we like instead? And I'm like, yeah, I think it's really up to us, like, to decide ahead of time, like, what do we want? What do we want this to look like?
Right.
And like, some people go and travel to warm places, and whenever we
That
talk
baffles
about
me
that,
because I'm just like, no, Christmas should
yes,
be cold. You should be
yes,
cozy inside. It should be
yeah,
snowing. Like, I don't
yeah,
understand people who want to go to the Bahamas for Christmas. I'm
yeah.
like, that's not what Christmas is about.
Yeah, the kids are not into that either, and
Yeah.
we like being in the snow as well. So that's why we were like, there's gonna be the snow, maybe just the four of us, but it's always like that anyway, so it's fine.
Right. So how are you doing the Santa thing? Like, how are you like managing that? Are you going to like hide presents in your suitcase, or I've chosen to never travel with Christmas and with Santa because I didn't want this headache.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious how you're handling
I
it.
think our kids are kind of old enough, but strangely, like, because our little one who is 9 and has ADHD, I think they still believe that Santa is gonna come, even though everybody might tell them that it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of that developmental delay, they really like it, and so they're gonna hang on to it a
Yeah.
little while longer.
Yeah.
So the older one is 13, and that's not an issue. Like, we can do whatever. And for
Mm-hmm.
the little one, yeah, I think we'll have a couple of, gifts just to hand each other on the day off. But we don't, like, we always had that like 3 presents limit on their wish list,
Okay.
because we never know who is going to send, who is not going to send them extra stuff, which is nice for the clutter aspect of things, but also in terms of managing their expectations. I think that's really important, that, some people don't get anything. So really, like, think about what you really like and why you like it, and then you can think ahead of time and change up to, I don't know, like mid-December, and then
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I think we'll always find little things when we're over there, and unless they let us know that they really want something that needs to come from the US or that is huge, that will be waiting for them at home.
Right.
They will have a card or a photo of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, you'll have to let me know how that all pans out for you. Hopefully
Mm-hmm.
you're able to keep the magic while you're traveling for your little one. My youngest is the last who still believes. And so I think this might probably be like the last year that she does. Maybe, who
Mm-hmm.
knows, right? But I'm like I'm really going to cherish it this year because I know it might be the last time, and I'm a little sad about that. It's kind of double-sided though, because like on the one hand, I'm looking forward to like that pressure being off of me, but there's just something so nostalgic about it, and it's just such
Mm-hmm.
a precious time that I'm like, oh, I can't believe that this is almost over, this part.
Yeah, I think I really love that part of Christmas, like the generosity and the surprise and like, getting to know how to please others. I really like that aspect of things, and that's what I want to kind of go on even if they don't believe in Santa anymore. It's like, okay, it's a wish list and you can get people to participate and get you something nice, but also if you don't believe in Santa anymore, then you want to be on the other side of things and you want to understand that what are you going to gift others, even if
Yeah.
it's just a note or whatever, a drawing. It's like
Hmm.
if you're part of the big one, then you need to become Santa a little bit.
Yes. Yes, my plan once the little one is done with believing in Santa, my plan is to then like uh like share the stocking responsibility, like the filling the stocking, so we'll all like just draw each other's name and like, okay, I have this
Yeah.
kid and then that kid has this sister and this person has me and all of that stuff, just to kind of like now we're all Santa, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and I like that because one of the stressors that I remember my mother having was to find one gift for everyone in the family that was like over 25 people. And I mean, like she spent hours like going back and forth to the stores and finding the IDs and like
Hmm.
even though she was lucky enough not to have to worry about like having enough money just to
Hmm.
start with to pay for 20 gifts,
Yeah,
but still it's a lot of work and effort. And
it is.
then if you miss the mark, you're like, they don't like. I think that's what's like the expectation that's really strange because it differs. It really varies widely from person to person. But
Hmm.
one time I went to visit my cousin maybe 6 months after Christmas or a year. And then I found all of the shirts I had offered her kids in the donation bin. And I'm like, so now all of my time and effort and money that I, put into gifting them something for Christmas is not interesting. And I'm like,
Right.
what do I do with that?
Yeah, I know. The gift giving is it's a hot topic with the
Hmm.
holidays, because there are people in two very different camps of like, no, you have to do it, and other people who are like, this is the worst part of Christmas. This stresses me
Hmm.
out. I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
It's like so much work, and then you don't know if they're going to like it or not. And so for me, like I enjoy giving other people gifts. And I don't I just kind of like let go of like if it's going to if they're going to keep it, however long they
Hmm.
choose to keep it is up to them, you know? And it's
Exactly.
like
But I
the
think that's where you need to get. I don't think it's like where you started necessarily.
right. Yes. Yeah. But like giving, it's about like, hey, I thought of you.
Yeah.
And I thought that like that's really what you're giving them. Just this like, I love you. This made me think of you and I wanted to give it to you.
Hmm. And sometimes,
And
like, some people are thinking of you in weird ways. You're like, really? You thought that was me?
yeah, I know. I know. But it's just like it's corny and it's overused, but it really
Yeah.
is like the thought that counts.
Hmm. Yeah, I like it. I think that's true to me. I remember like having conversation with some of my family members who were like, at this point, an age, I don't care that you're gonna gift me some money for Christmas, like, coming from their grandma or something. I want you to just try something. I don't care how much it costs you. It's like,
Yeah.
just like, tell me how like, tell me that you thought of me, like just me, like in a different way than someone else. And
Yes.
yeah, it's very personal. But I like the gift giving piece. It's I would say that when it comes to a certain number, I like the idea of just picking a name out of a ball better, because then you can spend more time and be more intentional with what you're going to get that
Rather than
particular
trying
person
to
this year,
shop
rather
for
than trying
everybody.
to, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But
No, I agree. Especially if you come from like a really large family.
hmm
And
yeah,
my
I
kids
think that's
already
a big
do that.
stressor.
Yeah. My kids already do that with each other. So what they do, because I have four, and so they, draw a name and then they just buy a gift for that one sister.
Yeah.
Because also I don't give them money for their gifts. Like it's their responsibility to do chores, save money, budget your shit. I'm not going to like inflate my budget
Yeah.
to buy your gifts. Like
hmm
that's not happening.
Yeah, I know. Like we have an allowance for them, and then we have like, yeah, whatever. If you want more money, if you want something extra, then you need to work for it, like one way or another.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But I think it's important to, make those decisions about how you're going to handle like your kids' spending budget and where that money is going to come from um in advance, and then just really stick with that and have boundaries, because there have been times where, some of them they didn't have quite enough for like what they wanted to do, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to do about that. Like I don't
Yeah.
really there have been other times where I came in and like, saved them in the last little bit that they needed. But no, I feel really good about my overall decision of just like, that's your responsibility. Like, you need to save your money and do chores and be planning in advance. And I'll remind them because they're
Yeah.
children.
Exactly.
Be
Yeah.
like, hey guys, we're right around. And plus, their birthdays are all this time of year. They're October 8th through
Oh.
December 1st. So then they also have the additional of like, okay, I have to buy my sister's birthday presents and then one sister a Christmas present, and
Yeah.
mom and dad and now stepmom. Sometimes they still do extended family too. So like grandparents and because I have one sister and their dad has one brother. So the extended family isn't like huge.
Yeah.
But I'll remind them as we're getting closer, really it's like September. It's like, okay, guys, we are almost in birthday
hmm
season. And then Christmas is right after that. I'm just going to remind you guys that
Yeah.
have you looked at how much money you have? Do you want to plan on doing some chores to save some
Yeah.
money?
No, exactly. And I think that's what's interesting, because that's how you set them up. Like, unfortunately, that's not a skill that they learn at school.
I know. And it
So,
totally should be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because not every family has had that education for themselves or had to
Hmm.
put much thought into it. And I think, yeah, it's really it's really great when we can do that for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's, yeah, like you were saying, a skill that they're going to need later.
Yeah. Yeah, there is not much that you can manage, but you need to know how to manage your time, your money, and your energy in life.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Those are the things that are in your control.
Yeah. Can't do much about a lot of things, but those three, you can't blame others all the time for those. It's really onto you.
Nope. Nope. Yeah.
Not
I
like
was
we're
just,
born equal, but still, there is something you can do about it.
yeah. Yes. So I'm curious, did you and your husband have any discrepancies with, because you come from the same country doesn't mean that you celebrate Christmas in the same way. And every family has like different traditions and stuff that's important to them. And it's always interesting when you get married and you realize like, oh, your family's weird. And now we have to have this reckoning of how
Mm-hmm.
we are going to do things, or we fight every year. So, how was that for you guys?
So I think it was mostly similar and easy, but then there are little things like the presents. Like since we've lived abroad, so it's been a long time now, over 15 years. If we don't go there, we don't need to send gifts. Whether my family is like sending gifts, at least to the kids, all the time. And I'm like, I need to to get it together and send everyone a gift.
Right.
Because I feel bad. I feel ashamed that I didn't get it together to reciprocate.
It is hard though, because like my family is in California, so they're closer. They're not in a different country, but it took me years to
Hmm.
actually like consistently be like on my game of like, okay, I have to buy their presents by this date so that they can get in the mail by this date. Otherwise, they're not going to get there in time. Like that just it takes a lot of
Yeah.
planning, and it takes years of failure
Yes.
to get yourself to the point of being able to plan that.
Yeah. And I think especially having younger kids, it's like it's just a lot to wrap your head. It's like either again like because of the timing or because of the money aspect of things. Like when we want
Mhm.
if we want to buy something, like that's what I used to do for years, and then I would have my cupboard like full of presents, but they were not making it across the Atlantic because it was either too expensive or too large or too fragile, and I just didn't do it in time. And then I was like, well, what's the point now?
Yeah,
Am I gonna do like three different shipping because they all live in different places and they're not together for Christmas anymore?
right.
I don't know. But yeah, so the gift giving is different. I think the importance of it is different in our families,
Okay.
or just the habit of it. It's not that it's important really. I think it's just the habit of it. And then when we were doing it together, I think in his family they would celebrate mostly the on the eve of Christmas,
Mhm.
and in my family we would have usually dinner with friends on the eve and then a big meal with the entire family pretty much all day long, like starting around 1 p.m. and then until 8 or 9 or more. And everybody would always say, "Oh, I'm not going to have dinner tonight." And eventually 8 p.m. would come and be like, "Oh, maybe I'll just have some cheese and salad. Oh, and is there any leftover of this and the duck? Oh, and this and that?"
Yeah.
And you would reheat a little plate for everybody in the end. So, but
Right.
yeah, I think it's a fun way like to have that time to open the presents and enjoy them
Mhm.
together, like in a like it wasn't very formal. Like you would like dress up, like dress nicely for the occasion, but also have that kind of really relaxed, like you're around family feeling.
Mhm. Yeah, that's one thing that I hate, absolutely hate, is dressing up for to go to someone's house like for Christmas and Thanksgiving. Honestly, I
Hmm.
love doing those holidays in my pajamas. It's so much more comfortable.
Yeah.
But because I moved away from all of my family, all of the it's me and my kids, you know. And
Hmm.
when I was married, it was us and our kids. And then if we went to his extended family, then I'd have to get dressed, and it was the worst thing. And I'd have to get the kids all dressed in nice
Yeah.
dresses, and fuck that so hard. I only did that because my at the time mother-in-law loved that shit. I did not
Hmm.
love that shit at all. I hate that shit so much.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I've been like going back and forth. Like the way I grew up, you had to dress up and it was kind of fun because it's not like something you do every day. So it was
Mhm.
almost like, I don't know. I don't, I feel like my mom liked it. So it wasn't like so much pressure. It was just like, oh, just make yourself pretty, wear something different than usual. But also, I didn't feel the discomfort of it. So it was
Mhm.
fine for me. But then when we came to the US and we had friends who did Christmas in their PJ and we're like, what? What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean you don't see anyone? Because we had that tradition of having a big meal and being all together. We're
Right.
like, well, you can't go to somebody's house in your PJ, can you?
Why not? That is what
Yeah,
I'm
why
here to
not?
ask. Why
Right.
not? Why can't we all get together in our
Yeah.
pajamas and just be fucking
Yeah.
comfortable?
Yeah. And I think that's like where I'm trying to go. It's like, okay, well, depending on where you are, like, especially if you're on vacation and you have like a big place that you share and are all going to live in for whatever, a couple of days or to a week. Yeah, why not? Then it feels like it makes more sense
Mhm.
to me. And then it's up to everybody. And,
Yeah, and I
you
don't know
know,
that there's like no discomfort like stuffing your face with delicious food and then being
hmm
constrained in like
oh, yeah.
fancy clothes.
hmm
It sucks.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I'm more onto the side of having comfortable, fancy clothes because it's like, I don't like I work from home like you do and
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want. So it's really up to me and what I want to see and
Mhm.
how I'm going to feel. So it needs to be comfortable for me, but I also want to feel like I'm doing something and I'm clean and I'm like I can show up in the way I want depending on the activities I'm going to have that day.
Right.
So
Yes.
I like the difference. I like to I don't know, I feel like it helps me move into different modes.
Mhm.
Like I was thinking this morning, I put on some lipstick and I just noticed how easy this has become very late in life because I used to hate lipstick. I'm like, what is the point? Like, this is weird. And I heard a lot of women were like, no, but it makes you feel comfortable, confident, and beautiful. And I'm like, really? How interesting. And as I age into it, I'm like, well, now I like it. And I think it's like giving you the permission to change your mind and feel to do, like, able to do whatever you're into at this stage of life.
Yes. Giving yourself permission to change your mind. That is such a big
hmm
one. Yeah.
Yeah. And for your kids too, because about the dressing up, it's the same. Like, my kids hate it because you do it. And I think I noticed as a parent that it doesn't matter to me, but I do want them to know and understand why sometimes you do it so that it's not getting in their way, depending on whatever they choose as they grow up,
Mhm.
that at least they have the guide, the rule book about if you do like to go there and if you want, then you need to understand this is what's going on and how it's done
Mhm.
and not being
Right.
left out because they have no clue.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I think that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's like you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And sometimes it can impact, whatever you want to get into for your job or whatever other part of your life.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there's a time, to dress up and people get to make their own choices, like for people
Uh-huh.
who really like to dress up and have it be fancy and special, like more power to you. That's great. I'm not joining. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm coming in my pajamas if you invite me.
Yeah, and I think that's it needs to be fine.
Yes. It needs to be fine that people are different.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so important to show like your kids that too. Um because I didn't like doing things just because my mother-in-law wanted it that way and then the
Mhm.
kids, just like your kids like I don't want to wear this. These tights are
Yeah.
itchy. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, you have to because Mimi wants you to. Like I hated that
Mhm.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a good enough reason.
It's not
Even though
at
as a
all.
kid, that's often what we offer.
Mhm. Yeah. So,
But yeah, I try to stay away from that and give them like, okay, so like, oh, it's the weekend. We need to clean up our room. I'm like, why? I did it last week. I'm like, yeah. And like, the reason is not that I like you to suffer and dust everything all the time for me because you're my little slave. That's not what the point is. The point is that I do not want you to get sick. And if you don't clean all the dust and all the things, then whatever is going to come in and eventually
Right.
you might suffer from it. That's the point.
Yes. Yes. But, that's a good reason.
hmm Yeah, but I think it's because we don't always explain that. Even
Yeah.
like because of the way we grew up, I feel our generation is like we just needed to do whatever we were told because that was the rule.
hmm
And now with our kids, I think we're doing things. I mean, a lot of us are doing it differently and we like to explain it. And then we get some pushback sometimes. Sometimes it's
Yes.
right, sometimes not so relevant. But I think it's important as a parent to be able to answer those questions in simple ways because
hmm
it has a reason.
Yeah. Yes. And having kids really it made me have to get clear on my reasons. Right. Like
Exactly.
it it forced me, and that can be really uncomfortable. And it's just how you choose to handle it. But it forced me to have to answer that question for myself of like, well,
hmm
I don't want to get dressed up right now either. Why am I doing it? Oh, because I'm worried what my mother-in-law is going to think. That's why
hmm
I'm doing it. I'm doing
Yeah.
it to avoid a potential conflict. Why am I doing this?
hmm
And so I don't know. I think a lot of people instead in that moment, because it brings up shame too.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think most people in that situation, instead of like just sitting in your shame and asking yourself why, and really having that reckoning with themselves, you just shut it down. And that's
hmm
when you just need to do it because the adults are telling you. That's when that comes in, is
Yeah.
when you're shutting it down.
Totally. It is. I mean, it's not comfortable, but like a lot of things in life, if you
Right.
just stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to get much out of life.
No, you're not going to grow at all.
Yeah. But you need to like your reasons to do it.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes, exactly. Because it's like it's your life, and there's so much you end up making this your whole life, but like specifically like the holiday season so miserable if you're just doing everything for other people because you're you just don't want to upset them. Then you end up being miserable, and it's like
hmm
that's not worth it.
yeah. And I think it's important to just like know what you're feeling and why. Like I remember one of my oldest is very sensitive, and sometimes they would do, I don't know, like stupid things, but like almost a little skit for us, and then we would laugh so hard, and then they would be like so upset and crying in their room, and I'm like, but us laughing is not laughing at you, we're laughing because of how good you were.
Yeah.
Wasn't that your point,
Right.
to get that reaction? And so
Yeah.
it's like having them like understand, okay, you feel ashamed and that's why you're pushing yourself to do it. Is that, really a good reason enough? Or is
Mhm.
it that you do want to please whatever grandma or something because it's only once a year and it makes you happy to do that? That's totally different.
Right.
So it's whatever. That's why there is no right or wrong ultimately, but you need to choose for yourself.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Because if you're choosing, to appease someone else and
hmm
you don't feel good about it, it the example that you just gave was really beautiful of like, oh, I'm going to do this for my grandma, even though I don't really want to do it because it's once a year and my grandma is important to me. So I'm just going to do it. That's fine. But if you're doing it like, me with my ex mother-in-law, it made me really spiteful,
Yes.
and then like you're just bitching all the
hmm
time leading up to it, and you're complaining and you're feeling like it feels really miserable
Yeah.
to be in that space.
And I think it's that's where you get to ask yourself the good questions. Like when you're feeling so miserable and you don't like your questions. Like I remember having a really hard time cleaning up everybody's breakfast because I was left alone in the house when everybody was gone to school or work.
Hmm.
And I was like, can't you just do that one thing? And I was like, so what is it about putting two bowls of cereals in the dishwasher and cleaning up that butter knife or whatever is left?
Right.
What is it about it that, because it's literally going to take you 5 minutes to do it. So clearly this is not what this is about.
Right.
But until you stop and realize it's only going to take you 5 minutes and what is this about,
Hmm.
you just feel the feelings and don't feel good about anything. And
Yeah, and then you
so,
just live in bitterness and resentful. And,
mhm,
for moms, usually like that scenario, it's just this feeling of like no one sees me or values what I do
exactly.
because they they aren't helping me in this specific way. And it's like, okay, take a step back. Is that actually true? Like, is
Hmm.
that actually true of your family? Usually, no. And
Usually, no, but I think there is unfortunately still nowadays a big point to be made to ask people to notice it
yeah,
and to acknowledge that it's not going to be done on its own, like magically happen.
yes,
And not in a resentful way, but in a fun way, and be like, I don't know, like coming home and being like, what's for dinner? And I'm like, I don't know. What have you planned today? Or have you looked at what's in the fridge? Did you tell me what you would like or whatever,
right, right.
Are you taking me out?
Yes, but like having conversations,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like not taking it personally that they didn't, put the dish in the dishwasher and that actually is not really an accurate representation of how much they love and appreciate you. Like
Hmm.
their brains just didn't think of it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
One of my oldest daughter, she just is so forgetful, like genuinely forgetful, and she is not detail oriented at all.
Yeah.
And so I just had to stop taking things personally because she wasn't
Hmm.
doing it on purpose. It's just her brain literally works differently than mine.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to recognize too, that neurodivergent or not, all of our brains are going to see things slightly differently.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I was listening to an episode, a podcast episode from that ADHD, like how to ADHD person, and she was saying, like, she was doing this episode with her partner, and they were talking about how the word soon can be so loaded, because for one person soon is like in the next 5 minutes, and for another it's like within the next 5 weeks.
Yes.
So those are not good words, not helpful.
Yes, but clearing things like that up and
Uh-huh.
not taking it personally that
Yes.
their version of soon is
Yeah.
very different than yours.
Yeah, and thinking about asking, what do you mean by soon?
Yes. Yes, some clarity questions,
Yes.
not loaded clarity questions.
Uh-huh. Yes. But yeah, I think that's very interesting, and with our kids it's every day like something new or a new way that you didn't think about.
Hmm.
Either getting out of something or questioning something that you've always done, and it's always interesting and inspiring.
Yes. Yes. But it has really pushed me to evaluate those things for myself, and I'm grateful for my kids like bringing that awareness to me even though it was uncomfortable.
Exactly. It's
Yes.
true. I mean, like there are some things that we never questioned, and I don't know. I feel like I have a very supportive husband that was raised by a feminist, and he's on so many levels a feminist, and still Like he gets like so many of his friends saying, "Oh, but how like why do you do so much?" Or and I'm like, "Seriously guys, we're in 2024." How is it that everybody seems to believe that everything is on the mom? Like
Because it usually is.
imagining that you have a partner.
Right.
It's it why? That's the only question. Like why?
Why? Yeah.
Or why not?
Yes.
Why not participate? Why not have, one person decide that they're going to be in charge of Mondays and Thursdays and the other on Wednesday and Saturday? Or why not like have someone take care of the laundry and the other of the dishes? And
Mm-hmm.
it's it doesn't have I think that's what's difficult is that there is no right or wrong way as long as everybody's on board. But I think assuming that because someone is doing it, that's because they want to do it. It's not the right assumption.
Right. Yeah, but there's equal responsibility on the person who's doing it, who doesn't really want to be doing it, who isn't
Mm-hmm.
talking about how they don't
Yes.
want to do it, and the person who's not participating and not asking themselves, like, oh, could I be helping more right now?
Yes.
It's on both of them, the equal responsibility, 100% here, 100% here, to have conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question things.
Yeah, and being okay with like not being resentful, but also saying something if you don't
Yes.
like what's happening.
Yes. And the key to not being resentful is talking about it
Yes.
early on. Resentment builds over time.
Yeah, and like silence is not the solution, like in any relationship.
No, no,
Waiting it for it to pass does not work.
no, no, because it might pass like externally, but the storm is brewing internally.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you sharing your unique perspective and point of view on the holiday season and stress and boundaries and just obligations in general. Let people know where they can connect with you if they'd like to.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda, for having me today. It was a real pleasure to have that talk. They can reach me at Without Judgment Coaching on my website or on like social media platform. The website has hyphens in between, so it's without-judgment-coaching.com. But yeah, I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn mainly, and I would be happy to, you know, answer your question if you want to. Hit me with an email or whatever.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will link those in the show notes. I like to end every guest episode with a round of lightning questions. So are you ready?
Totally not, but go ahead.
I love the honesty. What was your favorite holiday tradition growing up?
I think it might have been waking up and going to the Christmas tree at my grandma.
Oh, so you did Christmas morning with your grandma?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I remember that, old stairway and banister
Yeah.
coming down the stairs and being like, oh, what's going to happen?
Yes. It's literally the best part of Christmas is that moment, being the kid,
Mm-hmm.
waking up Christmas morning and like
Yeah.
wondering what Santa brought you.
Yeah.
Yes. What's your favorite holiday treat?
Ooh, I think it's more of a meal than a treat, and it's like again what did my grandma. It was a lobster in tomato sauce that's similar to a chupino, but she called it American lobster, funnily enough.
Why was it American lobster?
I don't know where the American part of the sauce came from, but that's what it was called. And I love doing it because it's actually not that complicated or take that long.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
Nice.
really eat lobster any time of the year outside of Christmas, so that's nice.
That's nice. I like that. What's your favorite holiday movie?
Ooh, my favorite holiday movie. I think it's become Elf because of how my kids loves to see those I don't know, like pasta when he adds up the chocolate and all this disgusting stuff on it.
The maple syrup on the
Yes.
pasta. Yeah. Yes, we love Elf in this family too. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a classic. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Are you pro Christmas cards or no Christmas cards?
I go back and forth because of kind of like taking care of the environment, but I think I'm pro. I do like to hear from people in and have like a physical reminder of it. I'm
Yeah.
not very good at doing it every year, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah. This question I have stolen from the Low Life podcast because it's too good not to steal. It has nothing to do with Christmas. This is one of my normal lightning questions, but I just love it so much I had to include it. If your belly button was an actual button, what would it do?
Ooh. I think it would just like allow me to fly. I
Okay,
don't
so
know
is
how
this
exactly, like maybe like open wings of some kind or a
okay?
magic
So this is
cape.
like actual like flying. So this isn't like teleportation where you
No.
press it and you're instantly somewhere else. This
Hmm.
is like you're
No, that
levitating
could
and
have
flying.
been, but no. Because I used to dream that I was flying, like just jumping off my bed. I think that's my dream, like being able to
Nice.
fly and see things from a different perspective.
Yeah, you would get some beautiful views from up there.
Yeah.
Finally, what's one holiday obligation you'd like to say fuck it to?
Hmm. I think maybe like having a Christmas gift for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a holiday obligation a lot of people
Yes.
would like to say fuck it to. It's very
Yes.
stressful and time consuming and expensive.
Yes. And I would like, to be able to put like real effort and time and be more thoughtful if I had just, I don't know, a few.
A few people. Yes. Yes, I agree. Well, Merry Fuck It Christmas. Thank you for being here with us. And I hope you have a magical Christmas that is like perfect for you and your family.
Yeah, and the same to you, and Merry Fuck It Christmas, Amanda.